Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have two special guests today from the Planeta winery in Sicilia, Sicily. We have Alessio Planeta. Alessio, ciao. And we have winemaker Patricia Toth. So when you move, you see part of one of you and part, we don't see all of both of you. So if you could work on that maybe a little bit. So maybe move back a little bit or something. I mean, that's fine like that. That looks good. So,
okay.
Great. And I've known these wines, Alessio, I think we've known each other for what, close to 20 years, I think.
Yes.
Something like that.
At least, or maybe more.
Patricia, I think I've known you for about 5 or 6 years. And I just love the wines, and it's always great to talk about Planeta. So we'll talk about current releases, and we'll talk about some technical things as I do with other producers. But there's so much of a great story to tell with Planeta. And let me put up a photo here because you have been a true ambassador for the wines of Sicily. First of all, Alessio, if you could just talk about Sicily. I mean, one of the things I learned first when I was studying these wines, the wines of Sicily, was that all the winemakers there would say, you know, you can't really talk about terroir of Sicily because it's like a country. It's so big. So if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yes, this is exactly, you touch what is Sicily. So there's a lot of diversity in Sicily. There is a diversity in weather condition, in soil, in kind of soils, and in variety. This was an inspiration for me, for Planeta, because depending where you are in Sicily, you have completely different kind of grapes and wine. North of Sicily is done, you have mountains there. So the same mountains you have in the center of Italy, they turn on the north of Sicily. Southwest and southeast are mostly, generally speaking, soils that came out from the sea. Calcareous and sandy on the southeast, a bit more clay on the west. And then, of course, you have the volcanic area, that is the area of Etna, but it's also the area of the island on the north of Sicily, Aeoli Island, and the island in the middle of the sea, Pantelleria, on the south. In the middle of this, we have an enormous diversity in weather condition. We start the harvest this year, and we talk a bit about this with the 10th of August, something like this. And we will supposed to finish at the end of October on the Etna. So even this year, we will have something like 80, 90 days of harvest in the same island.
Wow.
But it's a very clear picture of the diversity of the island. When Planeta was started, we started in our homeland where we was born, the southwest of Sicily. And of course, my family was based there since centuries, and we started to make wine there. But I was immediately curious about the other part of Sicily. And since '97, we are going around Sicily doing vineyards and winery. And this is what we like to do: plant vineyards and making winery and wines, just to try to represent all the island, try to explore all the island.
That was my next question. When you established your winery in Memphis, which is where you're from, I mean, did you ever dream that they will be making wines in Etna one day, or in Noto or Vittoria? Was that part of the plan, or did it just sort of happen that way?
No, there was a mix of story. One was when I was we have a library, we have a collection of books. And in these books, there was about Sicilian wine. There was a chapter called Ghost Wines. So they describe some wines that was done in Sicily in the past, and no one produced more in the 80s. I'm talking about the 80s. And so this was quite an inspiration for me to try to produce this wine. And before making only wine as Planeta, my family used to do agriculture, not only wine. So we also produce in the past citrus, I don't know, tomato, something like this. And so we like to explore Sicily I can say that I know any corner of Sicily. I drive, you say miles, 40,000 miles every year without going out of Sicily, from Sicily. So I know Sicily quite well.
Yes.
And so, and when I was young, in the 90s, when I finished my study, I went to work first in Burgundy as a worker, not as a winemaker, of course. And then I worked for a couple of years in Vittoria with my friend Giusto Chipinti.
Okay.
And so I had a little bit of Cerasuolo in my blood since that time. So this is why the first place we go outside of Memphis was Vittoria. It was a little bit something that I knew before and I liked.
Okay. Patricia, let me ask you, you're from Hungary, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We kind of lost the picture of their, and
yeah, we've lost each other for 1 second, but it's the thing.
Yeah, we're back. That's fine. Had you made wines in anywhere else in Italy before you came to Planeta?
In Friuli and in Piemonte, so I made this like extreme triangle in Italy.
Yes, you did. Yes, that's interesting. And
I just wanted to touch the extremes.
well, yeah, that's.
And to Tuscany, I always go for holidays. So.
Okay, so you're very familiar with Italian wine, so and Italy. So I had asked Alessio before about how diverse the territory is, how diverse things are in Sicily. Can you touch upon that a little bit in terms of making wine? Because you've got everything from white grapes like Fiano and Grillo and Caricante to red grapes like Nero Mascalese and Nero d'Avola and several others. So can you talk about that a little bit?
It was all a discovery for me when I arrived 15 years ago. I started to work in Noto, so the first part was a bit less on the surprise side, but when I moved to Vittoria, to Etna, and then Capomilato, it was always like restarting from zero with the experience. It's a huge pool of varieties also. As Alessio mentioned, it's a mosaic of terroirs, but then also an incredible quantity of local varieties to be used. And I think the real surprise was to see the whites, which can be a really hugely serious topic here, and then reds, which can be flexible, easy, light reds. And that was a moment when we started to work with them, when also the market started to discover these qualities here. So it was all new. It was all something to be discovered. And I was lucky enough to start the Planeta family, who had this incredible will of building and creating, and I had new playgrounds year after year. Maybe if I have to concentrate on one thing, it was to start to have the courage to express the delicateness of the reds here on the island. That was something really important, because everybody was waiting for big, heavy, bulldozer kind of reds from the south. And right. Then when the market started to open the mind for having wines like the Frappato, wines like the Cerasuolo, Nerello Mascalese, and the Nero d'Avola in its best quality, which was also something to put back on the map. Were really exciting moments.
I agree with your comment about the delicacy of the reds, because I don't have to tell you, but we all know that the media, especially the Italian journalists from the north, often treat the South with not a lot of respect. They think that, well, the South is way too hot and you can't make great wines down there. And you and several other producers in Sicily, as well as Campania and Basilicata and Puglia, have shown that that's not true. So let me put up a map here of the estates, and this is for both of you. Maybe Alessio, you can start to talk about. You have 5 separate estates throughout the island. So your home, your first winery was near Memphis, the Umo e Dispensa winery. So if you can talk about the different wines that you make there, we'll go into specific wines in a little bit. But
yes. Okay, on the southwest of Sicily, area of Memphis, first of all is maybe because I was born here and grew here, it's a lovely area. It's an area where the vineyards are in a system of hills that arrive at 450 meters, not far from the sea. So lovely affected by the sea breeze. And I can say that maybe in all Sicily, Memphis is the place with the most beautiful weather conditions. So it's never too hot in summertime, thanks to the sea breeze. Okay, could be hot, of course, but not so hot.
right.
And also enough rain and and winter time not too difficult. Soils are clay and quite rich in some areas, and is an area where in Planeta, Memphis was the lab of Sicily in the 90s. Was the place where us and other producers start to think about introducing new variety, playing a little more, because a picture of Sicily of the 80s was an island with 90% of white and 10% of red. Most of the white was Catarratto and Trebbiano. So Sicily was focused on quantity and not on quality. And this was what we find when we start Planeta. And we start experimenting, introducing Sicilian grapes that, for example, Nero d'Avola was absolutely new in the west part of Sicily,
Okay.
and introducing, of course, other variety from the rest of the world, from the rest of Italy and from the rest of the world. And the 80s, people doesn't have, like today, all the information about wine. There was not the kind of knowledge, kind of exchanging of experience that you have today. I don't want to say that we didn't know in the 80s if Chardonnay was white or red, but maybe something similar to this, because it was really another time in the wine world. And so Memphis is a place where, for me, white wine is an area of white wine. Is an area for me of where the French red grapes do the best in what I know about Sicily. From Memphis, we moved to Vittoria, that is on the southeast, is 160 kilometers from Memphis. It's over there, yes, near the coast. The Cerasuolo di Vittoria area is the only DOCG of Sicily. It is a system of marine terrace with red sandy soils. It's done with 90 centimeters of red sandy soils and meters of calcareous, and not far from the sea, and with the Iblay mountains on the back. So it's a very unique area, specific area, where the wine have a lot of flavors, and for me, distinctive flavors. Then from there, we went to the southeast of Sicily, in the corner of Sicily, in southern point of all Italy, of all Europe. Same latitude of Gibraltar, and here soils are white, really like a white powder, very high content of calcareum, and is a really a great example for me of a southern, extremely southern viticulture. Is homeland of Nero d'Avola. We moved there for making the best Nero d'Avola possible, stressing quality there, and we make our Santa Cecilia there, and we make also our Moscato di Noto in two versions. We didn't arrive super early on the Etna because we were more southern people at the beginning, going following following some le orme, come si chiamano, something step by step. So from Noto, we go to Etna. We was looking for a place on this is Noto. Yeah, this is you show a picture of Noto, and what I said to you before, these white soils, super white. This is all Nero d'Avola, and special light, really, because we are in the south of the south. But even if you are in the place of Sicily with a low quantity of rain, you see big trees. You see everything is quite not, I won't say not vigorous, but healthy. And this is why these white soils can keep really humidity very well. So not a lot of rain, but all the rain is for the roots and for the plants.
Super high, sorry, calcar content, which is comparable for the ones who had the chance to travel there to Jerez or to Champagne in Europe. Okay, so it's a very fine porous structure, which can really, as Alessio said, hold the water also in the warmer periods.
From the area of Noto, we start to go to the north, and we went to Etna. Of course, Etna is. We didn't arrive in Etna very soon. Now it's 10 years ago, 11 years ago, on the north part of the Appellation, and near the village of Passo Pisciaro, near the village of Castiglione, in the northern part of the Appellation. We was looking for a place for a farm and when we arrived in Sciaranova, where we start on the Etna, we were in love of this vineyard, of this land, because there were no vineyards at that time, and we planted the vineyards there in 2009. Sorry, we buy on the 8th and plant in 9. Yeah, this is the winery that we have done.
I love
in
this photo.
Yeah, this is the winery in Feudo di Mezzo that we plant in 2012. That we make in 2012. And today in Etna, we have something like 35 hectares of vineyard in Feudo di Mezzo, in Sciaranova, in Rampante, in Monte La Guardia. So in 4 really beautiful spots, contrade, and we are quite happy. When we arrive on the Etna, first we plant white wine, and then we plant red. This was something maybe as Planeta we like to do sometime, to change the roots.
Right. Exactly.
I was in love with the white wine from Etna since the time I used to taste the white wine of the old time, like the wine of Benanti, like Pietramarina, the wine of Muccio, the wine of Barone Villagrande. So, and as a winemaker, I was in love with this white wine that can age a lot, with acidity, minerality, and whatever. And so I plant Caricante first, and then Nerello Mascalese. My love with Nerello Mascalese was not a first sight love, but then love arrives, because I understand being a southern winemaker, I understood Nerello Mascalese a little bit later. But now I understand the big potential of this grape. And just to do something to finish the journey through around Sicily, in the north of Sicily, there is a small viticulture, super old, super classic. Today, with only a few hectares, in the viticulture that is done around Messina, around the corner of Sicily. And so one day a friend of me showed me the place where we have the farm now, the winery here now, in Capo Milazzo. That is one of the most beautiful spot of Sicily, place of Sicily. Is a promontory that came out from the mainland, and the appellation there is Mamertino, and the grape there is Nero d'Avola, and especially Nocera. Nocera is the grape of the area. It's a super sexy variety and beautiful and unique. There are only a few hectares of Nocera, and the viticulture there is not so. There's not a lot of vineyards there. Yeah, on the north part, and this is really a special place. The promontory of Capo Milazzo is a. Okay, this is the picture that you can easily what I want to say. This is a promontory that came out from the mainland for 7 kilometers. It's large, 600 meters. So it's like really an island reconnected to the mainland. And the soils are unique because most of the soils are alluvial, so came from the mountains. But on the top you have 80 centimeter of some volcanic ash that came from the island in front. So you have a volcanic area, but not close to the volcano. In front of Capo Milazzo, you have the Stromboli island. That is, every day you have ash that came out and stopped on the mainland. So it's a great combination, and the place is absolutely unique. Absolutely unique.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Are there many other growers or producers in this area?
There are something like only 10 producers, but there are two appellations. One is from Messina going to the south. It is called Faro, where you have the very famous Faro Palari, the very famous Faro Bonavita. And Faro is a bit more close to the Etna because it's Nocera and Narello Mascalese.
Okay.
And some other grapes together. Mamertino is from Messina going to Palermo, so going to west.
It's more down in the bay. It's more down on the seaside.
Okay, exactly. And here you have the Nocera with the Nero d'Avola. And also Mamertino is a mythical appellation because the Mamertini were some warriors living in that part of Sicily that during the helped the Romans to win the war against Carthage. And when Giulio Cesare, that is something for the wine producer, make us Sicilian very proud. When Giulio Cesare went to conquest Spain and France, he do parties drinking Falerno from Campania and Mamertino from Sicily. Suppose that this wine was something for warriors, for real warriors.
And somebody was there to write about it.
So it's a wine with an old story. It's an area. The farm is only 8 hectares. This is also a friend of you, your colleague, once visited the place and say, I understand Planeta in this place. So because you are people that you are not a big company, you like to do also, this is our philosophy. We consider ourselves like a collection of 5 small wineries. Okay, the one in Memphis is not so small, but the other one are relatively small. And Capo Milazzo is only 8 hectares with a very small winery.
Patricia, let me ask you, you mentioned you worked at a winery, or maybe wineries in Piemonte, also worked in Friuli. So you know Italian wines very well, you have experience. If you think of Sicily, I mean, for the longest time, we think of Marsala. When we think of table wines, we think of, pleasant wines, but nothing really of outstanding quality or certainly renown, like a wine like Barolo or Barbaresco from Piemonte, or Brunello di Montalcino, or something as famous as Chianti Classico from Tuscany. So I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, does that give you a little bit more of a free hand at making what you want to make? I mean, since Sicily was not known for such a long time, since you don't have a Brunello di Montalcino, or you don't have a Barolo, does that give you a little more freedom in your winemaking and your philosophy about, let's try and make a statement here, or are you just making the best wines you can from the territory and the grapes?
Tom, as a winemaker, maybe it's not a freedom, but it's the opposite. It's responsibility, because you have to try to figure out the way how to show the real quality of the material that we have here. And it's a challenge, I would say. It gives you a lot of energies to do this, to follow this trip, what Alessio has just described. Because the whole Planeta family has this huge creative energy, and they went on and they dreamed new spots where to make premium wine. And we were the team of 7 of us who are the technicians, agronomists and winemakers. We were trying to catch up with them and realize and get out the best quality of on these spots. It was incredibly motivating to have the possibility to change between terroirs, because in other parts, also in Hungary, in such a small place like Sicily, because in the end it's only 400 kilometers wide, the island. to see so dramatic changes as what Alessio mentioned. For example, between Vittoria and Noto, you get the car, it's like 40 minutes of drive or 50 minutes of drive. And from the super red sand, you are arriving to that white spot. You always have this, shock of the differences, and you are still working in the same team. You are still working in the same enterprise, in the same goal, but you have the chance to work with so many local varieties. You have the chance to work on heritage wines. You have the chance to participate in a moment of renaissance of the winemaking in Sicily, because what has happened here in the centuries is the viticulture was always a hugely important slice of the agriculture here. Then after the phylloxera, the surface of the vineyards have grown. In the end of the 19th century, it has arrived up to 320,000 hectares. Now today it's 1/3 of it, but went from the more flat parts up to the hill and up to the mountain. So it's a quality change. And this was a hugely fermenting part from the 80s, and it was thanks to the idea, like a very clear idea and very clear vision of people like Diego Planeta and other people who parallelly with him, the other family wineries who well, our friends we're working on the same projects in different spots of Sicily. So when I arrived here, there was a huge ferment, and to participate in this made me stay. Well, I came for 6 months. I'm here for 15 years. That's
Right.
a statement, I think.
This is for both of you, but how many wines total do you make? I mean, I lost track looking at the website. How many total?
We are making 2 labels in Milazzo. We are making the family, 7 on the Etna.
30? Okay.
In the meanwhile, he have cut short. I'm going estate by estate, around 30-ish on the 5 estates.
So that
there are people that they do more than this in 5 hectares in Alsace or in Germany. So
that's true. That's true.
We are trying to keep it calm, because we would have the idea of vinify every corner separately, but then sometimes Alessio is doing like this, that we have to tell it to the commercial team that we have a new label yet. No, we can't do that now. So we're trying to keep
no more new wines, right? Well, that must keep you busy. How many different fermentations do you have a year?
Well, that's a big number. That's a huge number, because we are
not that high.
Because we are our work, especially in the new estates, is a lot of research and development. So where we arrive to a new spot, whenever we went to Noto, we went to Vittoria, to Etna, to Milazzo, we are trying to split every vinification in small items, in small batches, to understand the most about the vineyard, how every colleague of us is doing. But we don't have such a long record like Burgundy has about all the small appellations, all the small crus. This is the work what we have to do now. So actually our work is to collect information, to register information in the bottle also. So it's now that moment of splitting everything in small parts to gain back also viticultural experience.
And maybe we didn't say before, but and but maybe not all the people know that we have in each place a winery. So Planeta is not a winery that collect all these vineyards, but in each of the 5 places we have a winery, and in Memphis we have a 2-3 winery, honestly. So this is why also we vinify many different things, because of course every winery is many cellars in each place. So our philosophy is to have the vineyards and the cellar in the center, and then we bottle in each of these places, and then we sell the wine
from grapes to nude bottle. It's all done on the spot. That's very important. Then the only thing what we do is logistics, which is all together.
A quick follow-up question on that. In Piemonte, if you produce Barolo, for example, your cellars must be in Barolo, unless you're an old winery and you've been grandfathered in. So is that the same in Sicily, or is that just a choice?
It's the same for most appellations. It's the same for Etna, for Cerasuolo, Not for Noto, but we in bottle. It's not by the law, but we
Okay.
in bottle in Noto
Right.
and everywhere. So,
Same for Mamettino also. So, yes.
And Patricia, I imagine you, during the year, several times you visit every winery, but are you based in one more often than another, or?
They always move me further and further from Memphis, which is the message, you know,
Right.
the years. But no, I lived 7 years between Noto and Vittoria, and then I moved up to the Etna. I lived there for 7 years, and now and I went to Milazzo from there because Etna and Milazzo are close to each other. And now I moved back to Memphis for the first time.
Okay.
But I'm principally living in my car, as do Alessio and as do Filippo, our agronomist, who's I think the champion with the mileage. So we pass a lot of time in the car.
Okay. Well, you get your exercise, you keep active, you stay young. That's a good thing. So let's start to talk about.
Just to finish, we have a team, and we have a winemaker in each team, and this
in
year,
each winery,
winery we have a winemaker,
right?
And
we have a special winemaker
this year because I don't travel more with COVID. No one of us travel a lot,
right?
Or at all. I will be back to stay in a winery. I will stay in the smaller one because now I'm old. I'm not a young winemaker. I will do the harvest in Milazzo this year. So I will stop there for all the harvest time, like when I was young and happy.
Speaking of COVID, I would imagine I didn't hear too much about Sicily. You're an island, so were there many cases in Sicily?
No, there were not at all. Now with the tourists, there is will be some days of people are a bit more nervous, but we didn't a lot because at the end of the day, Sicily is quite big, and people went in lockdown before very early, and so Sicily was relatively clean. The country area super clean because no one is here. Not many people lives here, and so was less difficult, but difficult as everywhere.
Of course, that's good to hear. Well, let's start talking about the wines. We've got several different. Obviously, we talked about the 5 different wineries, but let's talk about the different lines of wines. And I'd love just to start with the La Segreta. This is the Bianco 2019, the Grillo.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that wine.
Okay, I do this and you do that.
Either one. Either one.
Okay, this is our La Segreta 100% Grillo. Grillo is a grape that we didn't grow since the beginning of Planeta. At the beginning, in the 90s, I had a wrong idea about Grillo. Because in the books, they always talk about Grillo as one of the components of Marsala.
Right.
And so I was waiting for a rich grape for making a wine, oxidated wine. But the reality is that Grillo, the other grapes for the real grapes for Marsala were in the past Insolia and Catarratto. And the Grillo arrives later because at the end of 90s, there was a Sicilian scientist that started to make cross between variety to combine characters of some grapes. And he crossed Zibibbo, that was a super aromatic grape, with Catarratto. It's a super acid grapes. And do the cross in the old way, so with the pollen, and he produced this grape called Grillo, so that combined the aromatic contents of the mother Zibibbo and the acidity of Catarratto. And if you work this, if you vinify this in reduction, so if you vinify like with soft press and something like this, you have this wine super aromatic and super interesting for me. And I believe in Grillo a lot, and this is why we decided to make close to our La Segreta El Bianco, that is a mix of 4 grapes. We've done La Segreta El Grillo as 100% Grillo, because for me, Grillo could be protagonist in the wine of the white grapes, because at the end of the day, in Italy, you have so many red grapes that are all so interesting for our customers But on the white, in the white, there's many, and Grillo for me had a great potential. As a viticulturist, as a winemaker, it's impossible not to love Grillo because it's wonderful by the grapes, by the when you vinify, on the production. It's lovely variety.
Yeah, this particular
Also, we
offering,
make the La Segretelle Grillo and particular.
I'm saying that this particular year, this 2019, I find it has great freshness to it. And I've had many other examples of Grillo, which I enjoyed very much. This one has a little bit more texture to it than the other examples, especially at the price. It got great relationship of price and quality. Excellent wine.
Thank you very much. And Grillo is quite, especially if you in the west part, so in the Trapani area, could be quite generous. Our area of Memphis will be less generous, and with this good balance, the wine has some good texture.
And a bit more concentration.
A bit more concentration.
Yep.
And we have to be careful to do the harvest quite early, because if you wait, it becomes too heavy, too creamy, and
yeah.
don't what you want in a style wine like this. It must be a wine that's to be drink as an aperitif with fish, with salads, and to enjoy really by the glass and something like this.
Okay.
Just, maybe I would just mention something about the label. You showed it before. It's we took one element from the map of La Segreta, which is the bush surrounding the first estate of Planeta. This is a protective bush, and inside this there is this Hortus Conclusus, which was part of an ancient Arab fortress, and that was the part where they have kept the most precious plants like spices and fruit trees. And this is kind of a message that we took this element from the original label of the La Segreta family. Because both Grillo and both Nero d'Avola became regional varieties, and I think this is also a message, as also in the DOC Sicilia now they are protected by the BOC. We also wanted to give a recognition to it that we are giving a special place in our heart to these two varieties.
Okay, let's move on to Chardonnay, which was certainly easily your most famous wine. It was probably the signature wine of Planeta. Maybe it still is to some people, but with your expansion and your making using indigenous varieties, here was your first great wine, and it was an international variety. What was the decision on that?
I do this, sorry.
I think it's your turn.
No, this was a combination of two stories. When I said you that my first job was to work as a worker in Burgundy, and of course when I used to work there with Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and of course when I come back to Sicily, I want to do a Chardonnay barrel fermented because I was young and crazy. Mm-hmm. And the other person that was really the person behind this wine was my consultant at that time. That was also my master. It was Carlo Corino. So when we built Planeta in the middle of 80s, my uncle Diego, that is, as you know, quite open-mind person, was looking for a mentor, for a guide for us. And he knew the story about this man, Carlo Corino. Carlo Corino was born in the 40s in Alba. The father was the chief of the school of Alba.
Okay.
And this is the generation, he studied, of course, enology in Alba, of the same generation of, I don't know, Angelo Gaia, Bruno Ceretto, the brothers Ceretto. Right, so this was the generation that I want to say make the wine in Italy, maybe. And these people, and Corino, when he finished the study, he went to work first living in Piemonte, then in Africa, where some Italians do make wines at that time, and then he moved to Australia. So Corino was from the 70s to 89 in Australia. And when he fly back to Italy, he was into Sicily. My uncle find him and make him an offer he can't refuse, and he fly back to Sicily. It was perfect because he had, I want to say, the culture of an Italian from Piemonte winemaker, so the terroir, Italian philosophy, but an experience of doing winemaking in a warm area and modern area like Australia was. So when we need to introduce, I don't know, using of wood in white, refreshing grapes, it was perfect to have a man with this kind of background. And with him, we forced, he convinced easily me, a little bit more difficult my uncle, to make a Chardonnay barrel fermented. And this was crucial for us. And we worked very well with this. We have two beautiful vineyards. One is Ulmo, one is Marocco. Since the beginning, we made this wine with 100% barrel fermentation, barriques fermentation, half new enough 1 year old, 11 months in wood. And this is really the signature of Planeta. And people love this wine. That is now wine where we have from 95 on, today is 26, 27 year of experience in winemaking from two beautiful vineyards. And so this is the simple secret of the Planeta Chardonnay.
Okay. And now you recently introduced the second Chardonnay, correct?
Yes, the second, you said, yes, yes, we have done since 2014, 25 years from 20 years when we plant the vineyards. We make from the old vineyard special few bottles of wine called Didacus. This is a special Chardonnay with a really tailor-made Chardonnay from the crew of the vineyard, dedicated to my uncle Diego. That it was Didacus was his name when he was nickname, and so it's an idea of what you can make when you stress quality with a Chardonnay in Sicily, but in a special place of Sicily, because Ulmo, where we start Planeta, is in a hill. With a lake, with a mountain around us, is a place where
very special microclimate.
Yes, very special microclimate, and so
you said it like the other time. It's a bit like the Bulgari of Sicily.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Really, international varieties have found some special quality, some really fine texture, and some higher grade. And in the meanwhile, me as an external, I can say that the family has a super focus on the local varieties and on all the energy investments on preserving values in Sicily. But if we have a spot like that, I think we have to enjoy that we have a kind of Bulgari in Sicily and do some small batch wines like the Chardonnay or like the new Didacus Red, which is from Cabernet Franc. I hope we will taste it soon when we will be able to travel again now.
Okay.
So there are really some special cool notes in these wines here.
Great. Let's move on to my favorite white of yours, and that's the Cometa.
Right, yes.
This is the 2018 vintage, which is another great wine. Before I bore you with my praise, why don't you tell us, because people know Fiano, it's 100% Fiano. They know Fiano because of Campania and not so much because of Sicily. So tell me why you decided to plant Fiano, how this wine, the evolution of this wine.
This was a project done when we start Planeta, as I said you before. First, we say, okay, we need to understand more about the potential of the different variety in this area. We cannot go on with the Trebbiano and Catarratto. And we first introduced Sicilian grapes and French grapes. But after a while, we decide to explore something that we call Italian grapes, not because we are not Italian, so Italian, not Sicilian grapes. And we plant some of the most interesting Italian white grapes. I remember we plant Greco, Vermentino, we plant Teroldo, we plant many varieties just to understand a little bit. And most of them was not interesting, but Fiano was immediately star of the testing. Because in Sicily, It's completely different from Campania. I adore
So
Fiano. Yes,
changes
change completely personality.
in a way.
I adore Fiano from Campania, but the area where we produce Fiano is completely different, and the wine is completely different. So they produce Fiano in volcanic soils in altitude, in Irpina, I want to say, in this kind of place. We grow Fiano in Menfi, not in all Menfi, in the clayer soil and at the lower altitude, so not far from the sea, where the Fiano give you completely different style. It's very tropical fruit, but it's still acid, and it's the one that can age very well. The change during the aging time became flavors changing, flavors of chamomile, of the thyme, something like
But
this.
for way much more rich aromatic profile than the ones in Campania, which are beautiful and super adapted for bottle aging, very linear and very
They
mineral.
are much more mineral.
Exactly.
We are, I think, a little bit more fruity, but some elegance and fruitness and flavors. And so we decided to have this wine since 2000, so now 20 more years, close to the Chardonnay, as an idea of a great wine, white wine from the south on this style of wine. There is a wine that can age very well. The old vintage of Cometa, some of them are delicious, age very well sometimes.
The funny thing is that after the phylloxera, a lot of varieties has been produced here to sell the grapes and to the wines to the north, where there was a physical lack of materials. So there were a lot of varieties which could be planted, and Fiano somehow was missing. So they had to give this name of Cometa, because it couldn't be written first the label that it was a Fiano. Then this has been the wheel of discovery was already there in the 90s too.
Okay. Well, this particular vintage of 2018 is outstanding as usual, and I find a lot of tropical fruit flavors to it, which was very appealing. But it's so beautifully balanced. It's got that tropical fruit character, but it's not real lush or overpowering. Great subtlety to it. And just as a point of a note, and I'm sure you know this, but I love Italian whites, and Friuli and Alto Adige and everything. Campania are my favorites. So, but I've written 2 articles over the last 4 years about Italy's 50 best whites. I update it like every 2 years. And in both articles, I don't have number 1, number 2, number 3, but I have the top 10, second 10, third 10. And in both articles, I had the Cometa in the top 10. It's that good a white. And I hope everybody tries it, because it's when people say, there's no good whites in the South, or especially in Sicily, this will open their eyes. It's an amazing wine. So complimented.
Thank you very much.
It's still I think a very interesting fact, what people do not know, but it's around like a bit more 55-57% on the surface is white in Sicily, which first there was a huge way of the grapes also from the Marsala. Nowadays also in the other parts of the island, the big quality whites I think are coming out one after each, and it's really exciting for the whole region.
And I remember the first time I tried it, it was actually in Piemonte. I had dinner at Piazza Duomo, 3-star Michelin in Alba, and I kind of bugged the Toretto family. I said, I really want to try this. So I twisted their arm and said, okay. And it was like, oh, wow. So anyway, let's move on to, that was my favorite white, or is my favorite white. Let's move on to my favorite red that you produce, and that is the really Cerasuolo di Vittoria. Let me switch the view here so people get a better view of the bottle. So, but just such a charming red. I should probably have a bottle there. Here we are.
15 years ago, it was a red where people said, this is a funny wine, show me now your serious wines. And it was in the category of strangely smooth and strangely elegant and fruity. Luckily, it has changed in 15 years. The market has changed a lot, and people's curiosity has been elevated. And now there is a beautiful request on the wines of Vittoria. It's also, I think, thanks to a great energy which was created between producers in the last 2 decades there. You already mentioned Giusto Occhi Pinti, Arianna, obviously, Valle della Cate, other estates who arrived in the same time to fight against this idea of the funny wine and to show all the specialties of the DOCG, of the only DOCG. And I think this collaboration between all us has also helped to reach the DOCG. There are 3 areas. One are at the feet of the mountain, which is a bit more calcareous, then the central part, which is a bit more clayey, and then this third part towards the sea. It's a smooth tendency towards the sea with that combination of soils that Alessio already mentioned, which was 90 centimeters, 1 meter, 1 meter in 10 of this super pure sand, red sand. It's sediments, a young sea sediment, which came up quite late, and then under this closing rock layer, which helps us to keep the humidity, because the sand, as the opposite of the white soils in Noto, it's draining way much more. So it would be a bit more difficult, though we have a bit more precipitations there, like 400-600 millimeters in a year, but still it's not enough with the sand. Thanks to this calcareous layer, it is doable, and we have fresh grapes then. And because of the sand, which is providing these big variations, you know, in the availability of the water, that's always pushing forward the aromatic part. So they are, being red grapes, they are also atypically aromatic, and they have this forwarded aroma profile, which is very often of small fruits, from the frappato, so some smokiness and some floral notes, which can be from rose petals to violets. Mainly, we are vinifying in stainless steel, and then this is the only label, the Dorili, which is a Riserva, is the Cerasuolo Classico, where we are using a very delicate oak aging with big barrels, with 36 hectoliter big barrels for a year.
Okay. Briefly, what's the history of Cerasuolo di Vittoria? How many years ago was that first made, that blend?
It became DOCG in 2005. And there are 1 million bottles, 25 producers, something like this. The area is big, but there are not so many vineyards. It's an area where agriculture is quite alive, but with different plants. Vineyards there are not so many producers, like in all the southeast. And it's one of the oldest DOC and the only DOCG. But Cerasuolo di Vittoria, the name came from Cerasa, is in Sicilian, it's cherry, and also it's a matter of color, it's a matter of flavors. They discuss about this. I think it's a mix. They call Cerasuolo because Cerasuolo means also not super black, not super red.
Okay.
Like the Sicilian cherry that are be like not pink but light red. So it's a mix of flavors and color. Frappato doesn't have a lot of color, but for me, it's one of the most aromatic red grapes. And so the mix of Cerasuolo and Nero d'Avola and Frappato gives this wine with this enormous quantity of flavor.
The Frappato you can only find there. In the meanwhile, the Nero d'Avola, obviously, it's as we said, it's the king of the red grapes here in Sicily, and is a part of the Etna. It's planted more or less in every appellation, and it's really super exciting when we have the chance to compare them. You know, we've put together this tasting 3 years ago, which is called Exploring Nero d'Avola, where we have put samples of our wines with the highest percentage of Nero d'Avola, or when we did it here in Sicily, also from barrel samples, only just Nero d'Avola. Then it's really, really exciting to see how much it's expressive on the soils, the Nero d'Avola itself, between calcar, between sand, between the alluvial soils from here, from Menfi, between the ones in Capo Milazzo. They have so different personalities, ways, textures. I think it's something what we now have to tell to the world that the Nero d'Avola has a capability of expressivity on the terroir, like a bit like the Chardonnay or the Pinot, what we know, thanks also to the French and thanks also to the work what they have done in the centuries. Now we have to tell that we also have a variety which is so expressive on the different spots of production.
Okay, let's stay with Nero d'Avola. We have about 5 minutes, although I think we're going to go over a couple minutes at least. I'm sure no one will mind, but we'll do arguably your most famous red. That's the Santa Cecilia. Exactly. Nero d'Avola, and it's now or been for years, a DOC Noto. So tell me, I know Nero d'Avola is grown in many parts of Sicily. What makes it so special down in Noto?
Well, the white soil there. It's a spot what Alessio and Diego have found. The valley is called Bonivini, and often they are accusing us with cheap marketing. Like, why do we call good wines the estate where we are producing it? But it's something which is on the map since the 16th century. You can find it. So by the farmers, it was discovered that is the real spot for the highest quality or the highest texture, the finest texture of the Nero d'Avola to be produced. As Alessio said before, in that area there was a very low rain quantity. It was around also sometimes 250, 300 millimeters. So that's really a tough condition. But thanks to that white soil, as I said, like in Jerez, the plants are able to stay fresh and to have a very, very equilibrated maturation. And I think that is giving a real nobile quality to the tannins. The Nero d'Avola has a lot of great tannins, but they are quite soft and quite smooth right after the alcoholic fermentation. You never have a moment where they would be scratchy or squared or too intense. This has also affected a bit our winemaking style, because I think in the beginning the variety has been understood which has to be the flagship, but maybe it was also a bit extracted, a bit made, with bigger shoulders. But we have to have the courage to leave it smooth as it is. So we are not really using any new oak. We are working with the second, third passage of barrique, which is giving like a backbone way of aging, a backbone support to the wine, because then the nose is so special. It's so different from any other red varieties. It has some incense, some deep black fruit notes, some spiciness in it, and it's something what we are not talking about often. But Nero d'Avola naturally doesn't have a very high alcohol content if you are producing it in the right way. In some training systems where they had to wait a lot, maybe they were expecting too much in the old time, so it was known as a high alcohol or rough variety, but in reality it can make really a great quality. And also the pH is quite low, so it has a natural capacity of long bottle aging capacity, which is, I think, makes it really the king.
Yeah, I have done on this 2016. I mean, at least 10 to 12 years, and I'm sure I'm a little bit conservative on that. So one other note is that this wine, in the most recent Tre Bicchieri guide, received Gamba Rosso guide, received Tre Bicchieri. So congratulations on that. And it's always a kind of a guessing game every year with you. It's
we are putting a lot of.
I was going to say, it's always a guessing game with me, at least. It's like, which Planeta wine will receive Tre Bicchieri this year? They seem to, Gamba Rosso loves your wines, and it's like, sometimes it's Santa Cecilia, sometimes it's Chardonnay, sometimes Cometa. So that's a nice problem to have. So let's finish up with one wine here, the Nerello Mascalese, the Eruzione 1614. This is the 2017 vintage from Etna. Alessio?
Yeah. Yes. So when we arrive on Etna, the first place where we put our vineyards is called Sciara Nuova. Is at 890 meters. After I planted the vineyards, I realized that Etna there is a limit at 800 meters. So these vineyards are higher than the limits of the, and this is why this wine is not under the appellation Etna. And so when I was thinking about which name give to this wine, I started to understand one of the most interesting things in Etna that make the different terroir of Etna are the different eruptions. So if, for example, our vineyards are in a place where in 614 there was an eruption. So our vineyards are literally over
The flow.
a flow of 400 years ago, 6 years. So this seems to be a kind of classification quite unique, because you know the age of your terroir. That is something quite unique, and I like to play on this and use this
And also the base,
classification.
like
Yeah, exactly.
for the soils, for the composition.
And the place is absolutely beautiful. It's surrounded by lava on the top and by forest around. And the vineyards are maybe our best vineyards on the Etna. And Nero Mascalese, here we age in big boots. Nero Mascalese, from our experience, doesn't dislike barriques or small boot. We age here in 35 and 25. And that's the wine. We arrived there in 2010, and step by step, with the first vineyards, we start to understand the great potential. At this altitude, we wait a lot for during the harvest, and we like this style of Nero Mascalese ripe, not too much alcoholic, with all the fruit there, and not influenced by the wood. This is our idea.
This is where we are finishing actually the harvest, and you know it's funny because two of the wines what we love maybe the most from the Etna, the Eruzione Bianco and the Eruzione Rosso, are the ones with which we are finishing all our journey in a year. First we are picking for the Eruzione Rosso around the 20th of October, and then we are finishing with the white, with the Caricante. I think it's really an exceptional spot with 11 terraces. Really an exciting spot to work with.
Well, do you have any plans to make a single site or single contrada at the Rosso or in the Nero Mascalese?
This is already a single vineyard. Okay. This is already a single vineyard in case of the white, the Caricante, and the one terrace of the Riesling. And it's 94% single vineyard for the red. Then we have the 6% of the Nerello Cappuccio, which is coming from a different vineyard. But in long terms, absolutely the way when all our vineyards are entering an adult kind of production, we will split it even more to Contrade and to single vineyards. Yeah.
Okay. We've reached our time limit, but Alessio, I want to give you 2 minutes to talk about the hospitality that you offer, because I know that's an important part of Planeta.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yes. When we start Planeta, we became famous not for the quality of our wine, but for the quality of the food that my aunts cook for people. And so we decided, this is a little bit as a joke, a little bit not. And so we decided step by step to make it in a little bit more serious way. And so now you can taste of our winery, Menfi, Noto, Etna, especially. And we have done, so we can arrange every kind of testing of experience for you. And then in 2009, we have done a small boutique hotel in Menfi called La Foresteria. That is really a lovely place with 14 rooms and a great chef and a great atmosphere. And best way to have an experience of with good food, and there is a private beach for the guest, and is an area where in 1 hour you visit Agrigento, Trapani, Palermo, so you can really visit the west part of Sicily. And so we have many people because and even in this hard time we are full of people. In July and August was of course closed before, but it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Patricia, Alessio, grazie per l'opportunità, grazie a voi.
Grazie, Tom.
Grazie a te, Tom, sempre for your
Fingers crossed
support.
for a beautiful harvest.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes, yes. What we need in this 2020, a great harvest.
Absolutely.
It looks like at the moment. So we are
Yes.
touching wood, and it seems like we are having beautiful grapes. So you know, nature is happy this year, I think, in certain ways. So until today, yeah.
Man is not so happy, but nature is.
And we hope to have you back. Yeah, and we hope to have you back with us soon. That's also something we would like
Betty,
to.
I am so frustrated sitting here at home every day. I can't wait to get back to Italy, but you know.
And you are having the most extreme weather.
Well, it'll be over soon. So, but it's just like I'll be in Sicily soon. So, thank you again.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.